Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Communication 24/7 Podcast, where we communicate about how we communicate. I'm your host, Jennifer Furlong. Today, I have a special guest, Sistah Soldier, and I am super stoked about having her in the studio to have a conversation. We're going to focus on creative transitions because it is that time of year. Is a lot of change that's happening around everyone and everything. And so this would be a great conversation to have in connection to communication, the stories we tell ourselves, and what are some things that we can do to have a more positive mindset and prepare for whatever is coming up next. Now, let me do a quick intro for Sistah. She is an expert in the digital marketing space. So she knows what she's talking about in this arena. So she's going to give us a lot of inside info that a bunch of us could probably use, to be honest with you. She's an intuitive storyteller, an inspirational speaker. And I know that firsthand because I love listening to Sistah talk. And I think you are as well. And she's also a serial entrepreneur. She's the creator of ViiiBE Inc. Media Consulting and the host and visionary producer of the award-winning ViiiBE Inspires television show. And she is the master trainer and recruiter of She Works Digital, which is a virtual training and recruitment directory for creative women veterans. She teaches others the art of self-expression, shaping stories, and becoming masterfully indispensable in their career. That's going to be a topic of discussion in a few moments. Using their spiritual gifts to build divine relationships, get their vibe, and generate a future with possibilities with creative arts and multimedia platforms. So it's all about sharing our stories and preparing for the future, what's coming up next. Welcome, Sistah. I'm so glad that you're here. Thank you for being a guest on the show.
Yeah, hello. I'm excited, Jen. Thank you for having me. I'm really excited.
Absolutely. So before we started, we were talking about it's summertime. We're right in the middle of August. There's a lot of change happening. Kids are going back to school. Young adults are going back to school. Older adults are probably going back to school as well. People are getting out of the military. People are going into the military. Moms are transitioning to having the kiddos, out of the home. And we're all in transition. It does seem to be like a huge time for transitions. So I'm glad that you're here to guide us through this process. Teach us some of the things that that we need to know in order to make these transitions smoother, and also just guide us in a conversation on what are some things that we need to be mindful of in order to do this effectively and with, I guess, compassion for ourselves and others. Yeah. So you've done a lot of work in the digital media space. So I want to start off with that first. Why don't you give us a little bit of your background? How did you get into this particular area? Were you always into digital media, or was this kind of a transition of your own?
No, well, I first started with the interest of carrying a camera around. One of my favorite memories is having a camera in high school. I took a lot of the extracurricular classes, the ones that didn't involve all the, I just like the creative type of things. And I took this one class, which was a photography class. And in that course, we learned how to create a camera out of a cardboard box. And in that, I was so amazed that we were able to use the film. Remember the roll film, the Kodak roll film that we used to have? And take that roll of film and use this cardboard box to create a camera that actually worked. And from that point on, I just had a creative streak in me. I love taking photos and and using video. And so I just found myself just continuing with that. When I got out of the military, I recognized that this is what I really wanted to do. And I decided to fan that flame and not just subdue it any longer, because for a long time I had a lot of reasons, which, how we have the reasonings why we can't do it. The kids are in school, and it'll take a long time. But I just gave all of that up, and I decided to go for what I really had, burning on the inside of me. And it just led me to media. And I'm really excited. I love what I do.
Oh, it shows. It shows. I know you love what you do and you're really good at it as well. It's fun to watch and it's fun to listen to. I love seeing everything that you do. One thing that you had just mentioned, and I want to pick up from there because I think it's an important point that a lot of people may need to hear. Um, when you talked about getting out of the military and getting to a point where you're like, okay, I'm done with the reasons, done with the excuses. Let me just move forward with what it is that I truly love
Yeah,
doing. Um, it is easy to get bogged down, isn't it?
it is.
With
It
all
is.
of the reasons.
It is.
You had a huge transition though that was kind of like a catalyst. It made sense. Like at that moment in time, this is a good time for me to do this. What advice would you have for someone who may not necessarily have that big of a transition? Going from military back to the civilian world is absolutely something huge.
Mhm.
Um, but what if you are not necessarily getting out of the military? What do you do if you don't feel like there is this huge transition that you can rely on as your reason? Now, what can you do to come up with a good reason?
Well, a good reason is living our life with intention and for
Mm,
the reason we were put here for. The
mhm,
very purpose, finding our purpose, because we can get so lost and caught up in taking care of everyone else's needs that we end up forgetting and just really subduing our God-given gift. And
mhm,
in that is not until something happens that we realize the preciousness of life, and
mhm,
that the impact that we are here to cause is something that really draws us forth. Now, whether we ignore it or not, that's what that is. When that burning desire is like, I really want to do this, but then fear gets in the way. Oh, I've never done that before, so I don't know. When we all
mhm.
do know, we
Yeah.
really do know, if we put the effort forward to do the research, reach the, get the proper assistance, like getting a coach to
Mm,
help guide us to really tap into that. So a lot of times it comes from just being a caregiver, a mom, or just tending to everyone else, and really recognizing that we haven't achieved any goals that we wanted to achieve, or
yeah.
maybe to the capacity that we wanted to achieve. And then that's when we have to make a choice. It's like, okay, am I going to keep going down this road where I'm unsatisfied and I can feel the unsatisfaction and watch everyone else? I've helped them enough, and I can still help them as I grow.
Mm,
So it's a
mhm,
matter of deciding, am I going to continue to go down the path where I know I'm meant for more,
mhm.
or am I just going to, feed myself a bunch of excuses on why I can't?
That's right. And that's really easy to get into that cycle of thinking that I can't or thinking that I shouldn't, or there's always something else that's more important that I need to be focused on right now. It's
Yeah.
really easy to get stuck in that cycle. Um, because you have you have such a strong calling to service, and I can tell that you get so much out of helping other people begin to understand how to um, find their voice and learn how to use their voice, in a way that can make an impact, and help them, that it is that they truly want to have. Have you found if you make the recommendation for some of these women that you've worked with, um, have they also been called to a life of service, and they have found that once they adopted that mindset, they began to see things changing?
Yeah, yeah. So now I recognize that they're starting to come into their own creativity.
Mm,
Because so I have a coaching program called Coach Her Creativeness, and there's an accelerator, and there's also a online self-paced
mm,
course that is actually launching. And in that, they have found, through the process of getting rid of the limiting beliefs and getting rid of all of the cultural myths and thoughts that we encounter through our life, that those things are the very reasons of why their voice was stunted.
mm,
And so when we remove all of that, then now we're free, our voice is free, and we can freely express what it is that we want to do, and that includes being creative. And that means
mhm,
finding those things, those areas that we were excited in as a child,
mhm,
and
mhm.
somehow, somewhere along the line, we dropped it off and left it, and just got lost in the mix. And so
Mhm.
I do find that now they are using their creativity and starting to pick up the camera, starting
Yeah.
to film and write their story because they feel the freedom enough to do so.
Yeah. So with, the digital media space and, talking about women being able to discover their voice and different ways to tell their story, um, do you help them along the way learning how to, it could be they may find they enjoy telling stories through podcasting, for example, or maybe they have this great novel inside of them, or, maybe there's a memoir they would like to
Yeah.
write, or if, in addition to painting, something that they've always wanted to become a painter, or, any of the arts. Have you found that there's a wide variety of ways that they can allow this creativity to flow
Yeah.
through?
Yeah. So with podcasting, again, using their ability to take photos, videography,
Mhm,
and writing, it's all storytelling. And
mhm.
it's about crafting the story from within, because I can pick up a camera and see something totally different than what you'll see. So
Yeah.
if when I use my intuition to capture that story, even through the podcast, that I can go a little deeper and dig out the meat of the conversation and allow others to be able to understand and learn and listen from that point of view.
Yeah.
You know? Yeah.
This is important point. This is such an important point, and I wanna make sure that we emphasize this because I know there's gonna be somebody out there watching this or listening. They need to hear this important point. One of the things that you'll be asked, if you decide that you wanna create a podcast or write a book or, even try to write an article for a magazine, a blog, whatever, there's gonna be somebody out there who is either thinking it or they're going to just outright ask you, well, why should anybody listen to what you have to say? Why should anybody read anything that you want to write? And what Sista just talked about, your unique voice, your unique viewpoint on the world, your frame of reference, nobody else has that. It's a uniqueness about you that you can share with the world. Have you had to have that conversation with women?
Yeah.
That self doubt that they might have. Yeah, I mean, yeah, I love podcasting. I used to dream about being on the radio one day, but honestly, I mean, who would listen to who needs to listen to what I have to
Yeah,
say?
that thought is a frequent thought, and actually, it's an imposter syndrome.
Hmm. Hmm.
It's the
Hmm.
imposter syndrome, and when we follow our intuition, It's authentic. It's unique. People want to connect with authenticity. They don't want to connect with the same thing that they're hearing everywhere, but coming from a different point of view. And a lot of times it's an uplifting point of view, and it's factual, it's truth.
Yeah.
So everyone can resonate with the truth.
Mm-hmm.
When we
That's
get it
good.
from our intuitiveness, it's the truth. And
Yeah.
so we
Yeah.
find that people can relate to it in that perspective. And so therefore there is no, I don't know how to do it. And why would anyone want to listen from me?
Yeah.
Listen
Yeah.
to me. Yeah.
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 Um, you work with a lot of women veterans, right? Do you primarily work with women veterans, or do you also have, just
I do
women
have some
who
that are not
small?
women
Yeah.
veteran. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. I do.
Um,
I do.
do you get the opportunity, focusing on the women veterans right now? Do you get the opportunity to at least begin working with them while they're still active duty? Maybe they know that they're starting to transition.
Yeah.
What do you think is what's the biggest hurdle for them? Because I know as a veteran, having that type of transition, it can be very easy to lose your sense of identity, and especially I know, like, you retired from the military. I served a very small amount of years compared to someone who had been in
And
that
thank you for your
uniform.
service.
Oh, thank you for your service. But I mean, that's even for somebody like myself who did not retire from the service. I found that when I wasn't putting on that uniform anymore, I was lost for a little while. I really was. I became depressed. I kind of knew what I thought I wanted to do, but it was such a huge change.
Yeah.
So what is it like for the women you do have the opportunity to work with, right before they get out of the military? What kind of conversations do you have with them to help them get through that transition?
So first I want them to understand that that's not their complete identity,
Mhm. Mhm.
because we have a rank, we have a status, we have
Mhm.
our uniform, and we feel complete because we've been able to contribute. And that's where we've been given accolades because of
Mhm.
the uniform that we put on. And so stepping into um, the civilian world, as we call it, would kind of like, it feels like we're blending in with everyone else. And
Mhm.
yet there still is a difference, because
Yeah.
we're bringing in our familiarity of the
Mhm.
military, and it's totally different from what the civilian world looks like and acts like. So the
Mhm.
first thing I want them to understand is that there there are some things that we need to take, and some things that we need to leave because they don't fit.
Mm.
So we
Mhm.
can't walk into the civilian world and think that because we wore a certain rank that everybody is going to listen to our command.
Right. Right.
Not going to happen. It's not
Right.
going to happen at all. There's a different field, there's a different language. We have to learn to relate, and we have to understand that everyone doesn't have the same motive. We were
Mhm.
24/7. And so
Yeah.
when we go into a civilian office, everyone is on their 9-hour or 8-hour clock. They're not
Mhm.
always staying that extra certain amount of time. They do their
Mhm.
work during the time frame that they're allotted, and then they leave out. And so we can't get upset because they're not staying late doing the things that we would normally do, because that's not what's required.
Mhm.
So we have
Mhm.
to reframe our mind, and we have to understand that there's a different language, that they don't speak acronyms
Mhm.
in the civilian world.
Right.
And so
Yeah.
we can't get upset with them when they don't understand. We have to explain. Patience has to be cured. We have
Mhm.
to
Mhm.
cultivate the patience and understanding that they don't quite understand the world that I'm leaving, and I don't quite understand the world that I'm going into, but it's going to take me learning more about it. And the more that we educate ourselves, the less stress, the less anxiety that is what's formed, that is formed. And not only that, being connected to a community who has already made that transition is
Mm.
is key, because then now you have people who can help share that information with you on how they did it, and also help you with that bridge to bridge that gap.
Yeah, yeah. I'm seeing a lot of similarities. Even anyone who has not served in the military, and even if you're as young as someone who is just graduating high school and you're making that decision whether you want to go into the military or you want to go to college, you want to go to a trade school, or you just want to go directly into the workforce, what you're leaving behind is it's a completely different mindset. It's a completely different culture. And I really appreciate what you said a moment ago about, it's not your entire identity. And
Yes.
I think that's something that many of us need to be reminded of, whether you're in the military or not. I know kids that, they leave high school and they were in high school. They were either, they had their band mates, so they had their community there. They were in chorus, or they were, an athlete, so they had their
Yeah.
teammates, whatever they were involved in, but they had this certain identity.
Yeah.
And that's a huge transition, talking about transitions. Now you've graduated, it ain't high school anymore.
Yeah. Yeah. The influence is not quite there the same way,
Right.
It's
Yeah.
there, and it's possible to still have that impact, but we can't depend on those things to carry us.
Hmm.
We
Hmm.
have to, the thing about transitioning is preparation.
Yeah.
So preparing for what's next always helps to lessen the anxiety again, the frustration and the fears of what's going to happen. How am I going to be able to afford? Because now we're taking on a whole new level of expenses. They're not
Hmm.
all paid for anymore.
That's
Yeah.
right. Yeah. Yeah.
Responsibility really kicks in at this point. So when I was exiting, I started my preparation 10 years out on what I
Wow.
wanted to do exactly. And then I used the military's training, of which was
Uh-huh.
available to me, to
Mhm.
plug in towards my plan for exiting
Mhm.
out. So any
Yeah.
training that was available that would benefit me on the strategic plan that I had crafted
Mhm.
prior to me leaving, I would take that course.
Yeah, yeah. What was your MOS in the military?
So I was HR,
Mhm.
administrative, 71 Lima, is now 42 Alpha, I believe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, were you able to take some of the skills and knowledge that you had developed while you were in that MOS? What were some of the things that you were able to take away that's helping inform what you're doing now in helping others?
So my HR background and my recruiting background, I now recruit, as you mentioned, with She
Mhm.
Works Digital, using that platform to help service members transition. And so understanding that, and then in my background of HR, I worked at the PSC, so
Mhm.
the personnel service company,
Mhm.
and I had to think of that acronym.
I know,
The
right?
personnel
Dust off
service
the
company.
cobwebs.
Yeah. The PSC. So at that level, I had interactions with everyone, with their promotions,
Mhm.
with their assignments, with their PT tests,
Yeah.
their everything, their family being transported and their schooling. So I had all of that knowledge in being able to drug and alcohol. So I did it all. I maximized my MOS as far as all of the training that it would afford me. And now I find myself doing the same thing. So I help them with their transition to get jobs and to prepare for the outside world and working remotely, and the mindset that it takes. And so all of that I was able to craft. I designed my career because I had a different experience of exiting, such as a medical retirement and being injured and realizing that I could not physically do the work that I was doing while I was active duty. So I was also at that time studying for paralegal. My intention was to become a lawyer, but God had another plan. He had a whole nother plan. So with that, I decided, okay, so what is it what do I have right now? What level of knowledge and training do I have right now that I can immediately transfer into the civilian sector? And from that point, because I was injured, a real estate agent was the first choice. And I actually had been licensed for a realtor prior to that, because again, I started planning before I exited out. So when I became a recruiter, that was because I knew I was going to be a realtor.
Yeah. Ah, yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
By design. Luck
By
favors the
design.
prepared, right?
Yeah. Yeah. So when I knew that if I could sell while I was under pressure, that it would be easy for me when I was on my own.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I studied for real estate. I took the exam and I became a licensed agent before I had the injury that I had. And
Yeah.
then it
Yeah.
just happened to play out, whereas I exited early, and it wasn't early. It ended up being 2 years beyond my retirement. But I exited and I had something in place. So
Yeah.
my advice would be to anyone is look at what it is that you want to do. What is it that you really desire to do, and line up your training, your education, and your skill set with that, and prepare for it now.
That's right.
You
That is
know?
such valuable advice. It really is. And, I think it's important to point out that the action piece here, like everything that you're saying, you can have an idea of where you want to go. You can have your goals. You can have your dreams. You can think about, in your wildest imagination, what is it that you truly want to do in this world? But you got to have the action steps to
Yeah.
get that going. Is that something that you learned while in the military, or is that something that you felt is that just a part of your personality?
It's a part of my personality.
Okay. Oh, yeah. Yeah.
I've just always been strategic like that.
Yeah.
I think of some of the wildest things and then they work.
Yeah. Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know?
But
Yeah.
and what people don't realize, though, is there are a lot of steps along the way.
Yeah.
Like you said, the preparation, the designing, the thinking about it, while also at the same time being flexible enough. Because, like you said, God had a different plan for me. So
Yeah.
I may think I'm going in one direction, and then something completely different, could just take you off the rails, and then you have to kind of stop and reassess
And
what's happening at the time.
in that, Jen, what the listeners need to know is that change happens.
Yep.
Change happens. So when we get a little miscombobulated, when something throws us off the track, we have to stop. Everything, the training that we learned in the military, what I did have to do, because it was a struggle for me initially, I had to bring myself back, really back a little bit, and then look at the strategies that I was taught in the military and see how it applied to what I was doing and where I was. So when something happens, we are taught to stop, do an assessment of where we are, right? and then assess it, make a decision, implement that decision, and then go from there. So it's like I had to stop and assess where I was when I had that injury. What do I have now? And
Yeah.
what can I do with it? Get
Yeah.
my grounding, get situated in where I was and see what my surroundings were, and then assess that and make a decision. Gather my information. I had to gather different information after I saw where I was, and then I chose what options I had from there, which
Yeah.
were what's the best option for me to choose right now, being that I'm in this situation. I
Yeah.
can't change it, but what can I do with what I have?
That's right. Oh, that's so important. That's so important right there because, like you said, it's not if something happens,
Mm,
if something goes wrong, if I run into a roadblock, if there
yeah,
ends up being a brick wall, right there. It's going to be
yeah,
when that happens. And so think about your options and what it is that's going to help you move forward toward whatever it is that your goal is. And it could be that you don't have a very well defined goal at the moment. When I was in high school, my entire goal was to go to college. That's all I wanted to do. And there was only one college I wanted to go to. I
mm.
was bound and determined I was going to be a bulldog. And that was it. And that was it. And that was the only school I applied to. I was
Oh,
like, this is
wow.
happening. And I was admitted. I got my acceptance letter in the mail and I was so happy. I was on cloud nine. I thought, yeah, this is it. This is it for me. Um, but unfortunately, my family didn't have any money. I had no means to go to school. I was naive. I knew nothing of financial aid. I knew nothing about anything. And so when my mom saw that I had my acceptance letter in hand, she immediately said, "Well, how are you going to pay for it?"
Mm.
And I was like, "Oh, damn." I don't
I didn't think of
I
that
don't
part.
know, but and at the time I didn't know what specifically I wanted to do. I knew I wanted to do something in journalism, maybe. I was kind of thinking in that direction. I knew I certainly did not want to stay in Augusta for the rest of my life. I wanted to get out there and experience some
Yeah.
things. And it just so happened when the recruiters, came to the high school, and I thought about it, and I was kind of doing before I even realized what I was doing, like you were saying, assessing,
Mhm, mhm.
take a step back, assess, look at your options, think about where they might lead, and then go for it.
Yeah.
Just have some type of movement. And then that was all she wrote. I saw that Marine standing there in those dress blues, and I was like, he looks fine, right? Wow. I want to be like that. Hardcore, and so that's such a great lesson though, that you're sharing. Is it's you really do need to stop and assess and think about what your options are, and even if it's not what you had initially planned, you can still use that experience that you're going to get
Yeah.
to continue to move forward, continue to work toward that overall goal if it is something that you have. What do you say to somebody if they're like, I don't know what I want to do. I'm lost.
So I have a um my ebook on my
Hmm.
website helps with
Hmm.
those decisions, a step-by-step guide that helps an individual look and assess their skill set and
Hmm.
help them to really dig deep and decide what is it that I want to do.
Hmm.
What am I good at as far as my creativity is concerned?
Hmm.
And how
Hmm.
can I use that to my advantage? How can I use that to start having a more joyful life, to
Hmm.
be able to really tap in and create the life that I want?
Yeah.
Not one
Yeah.
that was laid out for me to walk in, and there's a curriculum to it and there's a path. That's good. and it
Mhm.
works in our favor because it's a foundation, and it
Mhm.
also is a secure it's security. You
Yeah.
know,
Yeah.
when we walk into the military or into a job where the platform is already created and all we have to do is follow step by step. But it's so intriguing to just create something that we envision and to live that out loud.
Mhm.
You know,
That's right. Yeah.
that's what's inspiring.
Right, right. Don't just exist.
Yeah,
Don't just, yeah, floating around
yeah,
existing. Yeah, create your life. Build.
yeah.
Build a life. What do you say to someone who they're like, "I'm just too old now. I'm just too old."
Never too old. Never
Mhm.
too old. Because if we're still here, then we still have purpose.
Mm,
We
mm,
still have purpose,
mhm,
and nothing just happens, and there's no running out of time. Well,
mhm,
time, we don't know our expiration date, but when I say no
mhm,
running out of time, is like that's not an excuse that I don't know how much longer I'm going to
mhm,
exist. It's what
mm,
about right now? What are you
mhm.
doing right now? Are you enjoying your life right now? It's never
Yeah,
too late. It's never too
right.
late. No.
Yeah,
Mm.
yeah. And think about what an inspiration you could be, what kind of a role model you could be to those around you. And I think that kind of wraps back around to, that mindset of being in service to others. Sometimes through service to others, you can realize, what your purpose is, trying to help someone else along the way.
Yeah.
Yeah, sometimes that's the best thing that you can do for yourself to realize what your full potential is.
Mhm. Mhm.
Um, yeah, you are just so incredibly inspiring, Sista. I just love listening to your advice and just, the way that you can just reach people and help them realize that there is a different way to
Yeah.
live. There is a different way, the mindset that you can transform and help them, reach whatever goals it is that they're trying to aspire to.
Yeah.
um, is there anything that I have not asked you yet, or anything that you feel, what, this is a really important point that I want to make sure I make to anyone who's listening?
Yeah. So I would say never give up.
Mm,
Never give up. You know, life throws us curveballs,
it sure does.
and it seems like we can be knocked down. But
Hmm.
get back up, dust yourself off, let go of the shame, let go
Mm,
of the embarrassment, the fear. And I say that as if it sounds easy, but it's possible. And that
mm,
means like just doing something simple as journaling or getting in gratitude about
mhm,
what abilities you do have.
mhm,
I'm telling you, I didn't know how to handle it when I was injured and placed in Walter Reed's Army Medical
mm,
Center from having a neck injury and couldn't
mhm,
stand up for 5 minutes. I couldn't hold my head up. I was bedridden
mm.
for
Yeah.
months. For months, I thought my life was over. I thought my career was over. But again, God had a different plan for me. You know, that
Mhm,
was a season, and I had to
mhm,
learn to take care of myself in that season,
mhm,
because in that we still have to, when we spoke earlier about taking care of others
mhm,
in the process, that we oftentimes forget about taking care of us and the attention that we need in order to be healthy and well and mindful and have a mental wellness to in the
mhm.
capacity to care for others. But we
Yeah.
can't do
Yeah.
that if we don't take care of ourselves. So I was forced to take care of myself at that point, to start thinking about what I needed to do to take care of myself so that I could gain my strength back.
That's right.
To
That's
gain my
right.
strength back. So never give up, because everything is possible.
Mm,
Everything is possible.
yeah.
And if we're still here, then that means that God is not through with us yet, and that there's something else and more for us to do. So to dig deep and to discover what that is, and in that space there will be the happiness, the joy, and the fulfillment, and the wealth.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you said something really important just a moment ago about letting go of the shame, because things happen to us. We all know. I mean, life happens, but then sometimes our hardships are a result of something that we have done,
Yes.
a bad choice that we have made, something that, you look back on it now and it's like, well, that was dumb. Why did I do that? And, it could have resulted in something small, but then it also could have resulted in something huge, something life changing, depending on the choice that you made at the time. Um, but having recognized that, yeah, that was not the smartest thing I've done. That's not the best choice that I've ever made. Being able to let go of that sense of shame, that sense of embarrassment, and to forgive yourself and to say, okay, yeah, all right, I screwed up. I screwed up.
Yeah.
I'm going to learn from it though. I've learned from it. And now I'm going to, move forward and continue marching on, because it's not going to stop me from doing what it is that I want to do. So recognizing that you will make mistakes
Yeah.
and you probably will make a bad decision or two. Congratulations, you're
Yeah.
human.
Congratulations.
We've all done
Congratulations
it,
for real. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, we have all done it. I have had some doozy bad decisions, in my
Yeah.
life. And
Yeah.
that sense of shame, though, is incredibly difficult to get through. One funny story that, well, it wasn't funny at the time, but I can laugh about it now because, when you get separation, you can look
Mhm.
back and, wow, I was so dumb when I was, in my early 20s. I like to remind people every now and again that, I was awarded the rank of Lance Corporal twice.
Uh-oh.
I'm,
I'm
I'm a
sure there's
two-time
a
awarded
story
Lance
behind
Corporal.
that
There
one.
is a story behind that. But
Yeah.
that's just one of those examples where you have a huge setback. And it was
And
incredibly embarrassing, but you just have to get through it and learn the lesson and move forward because you can recover from it and you can build an amazing life despite the fact, that happened.
yeah. And the amazing part about that is that you walked away now. Even, I mean, it's a tool in your toolbox.
Mm-hmm.
It's a
That's right.
tool in your
Mm-hmm.
toolbox. Those experiences become a tool for us to
Mm-hmm.
use in the future.
Yeah,
And the
that's right.
future could mean the next day, the next month. We never know, but it's
Mm-hmm.
something that we could take to build our strength, build our courage to
Mm-hmm.
do something else or make the next step. And
Yeah.
so I no longer look at my mistakes as something that was dumb, or I used to say, well, that was stupid, when I would see things.
Yeah.
And I learned that when I talk to myself like that, then I am
Mm.
ridiculing myself. And
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
there's enough of that out there, of
Mm.
other people
Mhm.
putting labels and things like that. So when we speak that of ourselves, then it's just feeding our subconscious, our
Mhm.
mind. And in all reality, it has an impact on our way of being. So
Yeah.
when I learned that my getting an Article 15 and sweeping the parking lot of, I
Yeah.
mean, a huge parking lot, those days I look back at it, but it helped me to realize that I won't make that mistake again. I
That's
will
right.
make sure I will make sure I check the roster twice. I will make sure I communicate, so it gave me tools, and it also made me
Mhm.
wiser.
Yes.
But
Yeah.
shame has the ability, shame is, first of all, is the outcome of fear.
Mhm.
It's the
Mhm.
outcome of fear. It's the result of having fear. fear to do something else, and it's just like a cyclical cycle. And
Yeah.
then when we're able to remove that layer of fear on what caused us to be so fearful of what happened, and why are we ashamed, especially if it's something that someone else did that looks as if it reflects on us, and we're now owning that shame. It's like, okay, wait a minute, I had nothing to do with his idea to cheat on me. I had
Yeah.
nothing to
Yeah.
do with my friends knowing about it and them not sharing with me. I just have to face them. But at the same time, how are they facing me?
That's right.
So
That's
it's
right.
like we claim things sometimes that don't belong to us, and we carry it and we cause it to allow us to be fearful of moving forward. But the more we peel those layers apart, the more we can walk in that courage and help us be able to gain the strength to get through those difficult moments and not accept shame as an answer.
Yeah. Yeah. And that is truly empowering
Yeah.
right there. When you can take a step back and recognize, through the course of your life, things that have happened to you, things that have happened because of you, whatever decisions we've made, to be able to just recognize it and own it and take the responsibility for what you can control and let go of those areas that you can't control,
Yeah.
and use that as fuel,
Hmm.
for your decisions here on out.
Yeah.
That is truly an empowering thing. And I think it becomes easier and easier to let that shame kind of slide away when you can adopt that kind of a mindset of,
Hmm.
yeah, this is a
Yeah.
lesson learned. I'm owning it, and now I know,
Yeah.
I'm responsible for my trajectory, whether I'm going to allow this to consume me in a negative way, or if I'm going to allow this to be a stepping stone. This is going to be, a pivotal moment right here, and
Hmm.
move forward from it. It
And we
can
don't,
happen. Hmm.
and we don't have to, I apologize because this was
Hmm.
just like burning real quick. We
Yeah.
don't have to accept the shame that others tried to place on us either.
Very important. I'm glad that you said that. Yeah.
So it's
Yeah.
like when I think about it, when I exited the military, I exited because of an injury. So there was
Hmm.
shame that I felt like I didn't
Hmm.
complete my term of service, but I got injured. There was nothing
Hmm.
that I could do to help that, be
Hmm.
that way. It was what it was. So my taking on shame was not going to catapult me in any way. It wasn't supporting me. It wasn't leading to a positive outcome.
Hmm.
When I hear people, I didn't say, if they, if there's a comparison, I stayed in for, 21 years. Well, I only did 4, and I couldn't,
Hmm.
that you
Right.
served.
Yeah.
And whether you got out, if whether they got out on a un um uh, 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 can't even think about it. Think the name of it, but a discharge, unfavorable
Mhm.
discharge.
Right. Yes. Yes. Hmm.
There was a lesson learned. There was a
Hmm.
term in there that you they were on an assignment. I look at
Hmm.
everything as an assignment. God has a
Hmm.
time and a place for us to learn a
Hmm.
certain thing, or to be, or to contribute at a certain time in a certain place. Maybe it doesn't always end the way that we expect it was supposed to end, but we served. We did what we were supposed to do. Let go of the shame.
Mm.
Let
Mhm.
go of the shame, because it's an
Mhm.
assignment. It really is an assignment.
Mm.
Where everything that
Yeah.
we do is an assignment.
Yeah. Yeah.
So if we look at it as an assignment and then move on to the next thing, what did you learn from it? It doesn't have to be shame, but
Mhm.
again, assess where you are, take
Yeah.
what you've learned from that, and use it to help you move forward to the next assignment.
Yeah. Every single time I have a conversation with you, sister, I'm motivated. I'm inspired. I'm ready to, I'm going to get off here and I'm going to do something amazing. it's gonna happen. It's gonna happen. You just have that effect. I hope you. I truly do hope that you understand or realize what a positive influence you are on others, and you really are. You're just truly a gift, to the world, and you have impacted so many lives in such a positive way. And I know you probably hear thank you, all the time, but I don't think there are enough thank yous or enough recognition that you can get for what you're continuing to do. Yes, you served your country and you're continuing to serve humanity. And it's important what you're doing. And you are so appreciated. You really are.
Thank
Um,
you, Jen.
how do we get in touch with you? Anyone who's like, man, I need to contact her so that I can get some more of this knowledge that's being laid down right before me. What do they need to do? How do they get in touch with you?
Yeah, they can go to shevetmedia.com
Mhm.
and just find all the information they need right there. They can find out about the show, She Vet Inspires, the
Mhm.
coaching program, just everything that we do. Yeah.
Yeah. You have a lot of programs that anybody who goes to your website, I think they should be able to find something that is going to help them move forward. Whatever it is that they're trying to achieve, I guarantee you there's going to be something on that website that's going to help you move forward in achieving that goal. As well as your ebook is available through that website,
Yes,
correct?
yes, they can find that ebook. Yes, on
Okay.
that website.
All right. So the steps that you need. And
Yeah.
what's the name of the ebook?
It is let me a checklist. It's a checklist for your creative transition roadmap.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Perfect. Because
Yeah.
that's how we started this conversation.
Yeah.
Creative transitions. Summertime,
Creative
everybody's feeling
transition.
it, everybody's going through it. So I highly recommend go to the website. I will have the link in the show notes. That way you can just get to the link and click. You can get to Sistah's website very easily, download that ebook, look around. And if you contact her, I guarantee you she will help you figure out whatever it is that needs to be done in order to have a positive impact on the trajectory of your life. All right. Well, that is it for now. Thanks again, Sistah. I really appreciated having you on the show. This has been a
Thank
wonderful
you.
conversation.
This has
All right.
been I love, love, love your show, and thank you for having me on it.
Oh, thank you. All right, everybody. Have a great rest of your day, and we'll see you again real soon.